Now tuned into the greatest.
Disciplining myself, so when that bag come, I won't fumble. I'm just stacking on the low, but hey, I'm tired of being humble. Let me get to it. That motivation music, get control of your life. Don't let nobody else do it. Cause I'm not gonna have Metro S550s cruising. Feel like you winning on the ground, but he really losing.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. Now, I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like or you dislike, go ahead. Shoot us a quick take, 219-413-9405. And of course, we'll play it back on our next episode. And then shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Go ahead, use the promo code, The Run Podcast, to save yourself $20 off your next ticket purchase. It does only work for first ticket purchases only on the website or mobile app. So it's not too late to go ahead and go to one of these games that's happening in the playoffs. Possibly that would be a dream for a lot of people like myself, but you can still go to concerts and stuff like that. However, the playoffs is something that is here, and I'm so excited about the NBA playoffs. And first and foremost, I think it's necessary to acknowledge how great the playoffs has been so far. Only in the first round, obviously, but there's been so much great basketball. And all season long, I thought we've witnessed great basketball throughout the course of the NBA. But in the playoffs specifically, man, I'm loving the basketball I'm witnessing. Whether it's the Denver Nuggets and Clippers series, whether it's Lakers, Wolves, Pistons, Knicks, Pacers and Milwaukee Bucks, it's beautiful because you're seeing actual basketball. You're seeing basketball adjustments. You're seeing actual defense being played, which is amazing. So, these type of things, sometimes we can take it for granted because we talk trash about how the regular season is going and why the regular season is this and why the regular season is that. But at the end of the day, it is important to acknowledge how great of basketball we are witnessing on a nightly basis, man, because specifically, this Pistons and Knicks series here is, this obviously has my attention being a huge Pistons fan, but I'm loving it, man. Knicks, obviously, they won game one and people thought it was going to be over. They thought it was done. They went on a big 21-0 run to close out the game, took the lead 1-0. Then the Pistons went back to New York and they ended up stealing game two, which was just amazing and beautiful in all angles to just watch them silence the Garden the way they did. Loved it. Loved every second, especially at the end of the game when you could just hear a pin drop in the Garden because nobody really expected the Pistons to win. Nobody except Pistons fans. We all knew what was happening. First thing I kind of want to pay attention to in this game here, in this previous game too, and I'll predict game three and go into game three and see the changes that I want to see about, the game come up game three. But the things that I noticed so far within the first two games of this season is it's not really about how either team is starting the game or even playing in a chunk of the game, but it's really how these teams are closing the games out. That's the biggest piece that I've witnessed. Game one, obviously, Pistons, they weren't playing bad at all. They were actually playing fairly well, and I thought they did a great job at certain things in game one. They build on those things come game two, but above all, the main reason they lost game one is because they did not close that game. To me, that was the biggest difference of noticing playoff experience in game one is maybe the Pistons did get a little bit happy with the 9-point lead going into the fourth and early on in the fourth and ended up blowing the game. And that's what happens. They deserved that L because they did not properly close it out. Whereas game two with the Detroit Pistons, we've seen them in control most of the game. They led all game after the first quarter and then they closed out the game properly. Yes, the Garden was jumping. It was crazy. It was exciting. The energy was insane. You could feel it through the TV if you were watching. Personally, I feel like that's the case. But ultimately, they did not fold. They did not turn the ball over toward the end of the game, and they kept their poise. They stayed solid. And that's why they ended up winning that game. Obviously, Dennis Schroeder had a lot to do with that. Cade's aggressiveness, he had a lot to do with that as well. These are big things and big reasons why a lot of these teams or why the Pistons, I should say, were able to win game two. But above all, there's some things you can still go back to the lab and capitalize on. Like one of the things was the shooting. Shooting, man, I hope everybody, honestly, I'm hoping everybody comes back game three in Detroit and just shoots the ball a little bit better. Because the Knicks didn't shoot the ball good. The Pistons didn't shoot the ball good in game two. both teams were kind of struggling there in that aspect, but obviously they resorted to trying to get to the rim, get to the cup, and make some points happen that way, which we've seen. And shout out to K for being extremely aggressive with getting to the rim and drawing contact, getting these foul calls and stuff, and getting to the line to get these free throws. But above all, I don't think it's going to be that easy come game 3. When we're looking at game 3, obviously, this is a go back, readjust type of thing. Game is going to be in Detroit. Pistons going to have a little more momentum on their side from this jump. I don't think that'll play too much of a difference in terms of what I've seen in the first 2 games. Hopefully it does, where the Pistons take off and they get to a great start and end up winning. But the biggest thing here is that they want to stay aggressive, continue to attack the paint and defense. This is a defensive series. No matter what you see from Jalen Brunson, no matter what you see from K, at the end of the day, this series is going to be won based on defense, just like every other series that I'm witnessing so far in the playoffs. Defense is going to be the deciding factor. This very reason is why everybody says defense wins championships. Because despite people putting up 30 points, despite people knocking down threes, missing threes, at the end of the day, it comes down to, are you getting stops? And are you stopping the other team from scoring the ball? Pistons did that. They did that game 2. They did that game 1 to an extent, but then they folded. So game 3, when I'm seeing this Pistons-Knicks matchup, I think Pistons end up winning this matchup now that they're at home. They have a little more momentum, so this is something they can build from, and they'll have the crowd cheering them on in the down times of the game. They'll be able to still step up, but the defensive intensity is going to be a lot more. You'll see that no updates on Isaiah Stewart just yet, but I think they'll get Isaiah Stewart back for this matchup in game 3. However, I will say, man, we did a hell of a job. We did a hell of a job defending Karl-Anthony Towns, which was amazing. And shout out to Paul Reed for that, because he came off the bench and he really sparked up a change. He was doing his thing coming off the bench, guarding Karl-Anthony Towns, and just, kind of focusing in on the whole pick and roll action. And I'll say this: if you don't take away anything, you take away nothing from everything you heard, pick and roll, stopping the pick and roll is going to be huge. This is why the Pistons had this is where the Pistons had some success in game 2. They were able to stop the pick and roll, whereas game 1, they got cooked by it. And then one of the things I noticed with the Pistons that they did in game 2 was they funneled guys to the baseline. They funneled guys to the baseline to try and get them to go corner or make a cross-court pass. And it was successful for the most part. We still gave up a couple of threes, but ultimately this stopped a left-handed shooter like Jalen Brunson from being able to just hit us with a step-back pull-up and hit a bunch of threes in our faces coming around screens. We were hedging screens. We sent Brunson to go to the baseline, and we eliminated those easy buckets that's coming straight from the middle, where guys is just exploiting our middle and obviously ultimately exploiting the paint. So this was a change, and this was an adjustment I thought was beautiful. Maybe we can run the same thing come game 3, but maybe we'll have to adjust it. However, I think it depends on if the Knicks can shoot us out of that type of defensive style right now. Maybe we jump into some zone. Maybe we jump back into some man. But above all, funneling guys to the baseline, and I noticed we did this with Karl-Anthony Towns too. Brunson wasn't the only one, and this is where I think Karl-Anthony Towns struggled a little bit, like he did in game 2. Everybody want to talk about, well, Cat, he wasn't aggressive. He didn't do this. He didn't do that, which is very true. He wasn't as aggressive as people would expect him to be, but ultimately, Pistons did a great job bringing multiple defenders toward Karl-Anthony Towns. They kept focus around Karl-Anthony Towns, and I noticed we did the same thing with Jalen Brunson. And this is what the Knicks did to Cade Cunningham. Like, that you start focusing on particular guys on the defensive end. And this is an adjustment you have to do. And this is why I say it's going to be a defensive series, because when you see a guy like Cade who put up 30 points, and the majority of the points came from inside buckets, paint buckets, you obviously want to focus on that. Now, credit to K for being a good player, being able to put his head down, get to the cup anyway, and take advantage and pick and choose his options of when he'll drive. But ultimately, he has to stay aggressive come game 3, and then our shooters have to knock down shots. That's the only way Pistons can continue to thrive with the game plan of K being extremely aggressive going to the paint. Because you got to be silly if you believe that the Knicks are not going to adjust the paint protection from getting lit up in game 2. They'll definitely adjust. So I'm excited for it. I think Pistons definitely come out on top with the win in game 3. And one thing I know for sure, Pistons fans, dog, anybody Anybody who's a Pistons fan. And bro, if you are going to this game, if you are going to game 3, game 4, I need all my fellow Pistons fans. I can't make it. So you got to do this for all the Pistons fans who cannot make it, but so desperately want to be there. You have to tear the roof off of Little Caesars Arena. Please tear the roof off of Little Caesars Arena. Like, yeah, I need, man, we got to just showcase this home court advantage, and we really have to utilize this home court advantage to win this series. Because I'm somewhat, bro, I think about this. So when the Pistons won the other day, I thought about this. I'm like, bro, I was old enough when they won a championship and stuff, like in 2005 and all of that. But I was young. I was so young, bro. I was unable to really analyze basketball. I was just there for the shenanigans and everything else that was happening because they won a championship and because they were good. But bro, 2008, I was just like being able to really, really understand the game and really be able to pick the game apart. I was still young then. I was crazy young, actually. But like, this is the first time I've ever seen the Pistons win in the playoffs, bro. All through, I think maybe elementary. All through middle school, been a Pistons fan. Never seen them win in the playoffs. All through high school, been a Pistons fan. Never seen them win in the playoffs. All through college, been a Pistons fan. Never seen them win in the playoffs. Even adulthood, been a Pistons fan. Never seen these boys win in the playoffs. So I need them to come out of this series victorious. Because, bro, I ain't never seen that happen. And it's the first time for everything. So I've been too loyal as a Pistons fan, and I deserve it, bro. It's time. So if you're going to this game, if you're going to this Pistons Knicks playoff series, whether it's game 3 or 4, please just do me and every other Pistons fan who cannot be there but desperately wants to be there, tear the roof off of Little Caesars Arena. Man, I need them to hear you all. I need them to all of downtown to hear the Pistons game. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, look, man, we got some more stuff coming up. NFL draft is actually about to be happening, so we'll touch on some of that stuff. We're going to skip some news, but we'll jump straight into the draft, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll jump right back into the NFL draft. So let's get into it, man, and don't go anywhere. It's halftime, so we'll be right back. All right, so look, man, let's get into it. The NFL draft is happening today. If you're listening on Thursday, this was recorded like late Wednesday, so whatever. So yeah, whenever you listen, it's happening Thursday, man. April 24th, 2025. It's about to be crazy. I'm excited for this, man. And let's just give a quick little recap of order of some top guys that we're thinking may go where and who may go wherever. So I'm going to start with the top 5, man. Let's jump straight into it. I'm not wasting any time or nothing like that. So the Tennessee Titans, it's been reported multiple times that they're going to draft Cam Ward. I think this is a great pickup for the Titans. Go ahead and draft Cam Ward. I think let's go ahead and get that out the way. That's evident. It's been reported on multiple occasions and from multiple sources that Cam Ward is most likely going there. But outside of that, man, I think a lot of different places might happen and a lot of different things might happen with this draft in terms of players that we think are going certain places and then players that may end up in certain areas that we didn't think they had no chance or no business being in. So one of the things that I'm truly, genuinely passionate about, and I should have brought somebody on here too, Jared. I should have brought Jared on here. He's been on here a couple times, and maybe I'll still bring him on to do a draft recap or something. But he wrote an article on the website about Shedeur Sanders. It's a dope article, man. So go check it out, therunusa.com. However, Shedeur Sanders, man, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. Now, I know it's a little late to be saying that, and it's a little bold, but ultimately, we know some teams really like him and we know some teams don't like Shedeur Sanders. Personally, I'm on the trend of thinking, okay, Sanders is obviously, he's a good quarterback. He does some things extremely well. He has a good arm on him. He's obviously shown his ability to learn and stuff, but we still don't know the depths of how serious he is about learning and how open, I should say, he is to learning more about quarterback being in the NFL. However, the things that really stick out, a lot of times we've seen a crazy report, people saying, he's the most entitled kid ever, which could very much be true. I don't know him, so I don't really have a place on that. But there's been a lot of reports about characteristic questions. And that is obviously very scary if this is going to be a franchise quarterback for your team. But number 2, the Cleveland Browns have the pick here. And some people are speculating that maybe they do go Shedeur Sanders and possibly maybe they make it happen. But I think the other alternative option for the Cleveland Browns here is not necessarily Shedeur Sanders, but I think they go defensive edge here. Like, part of me has a feeling that they just turn into an overbearing defense with keeping, everybody that had Myles Garrett over there and then adding another edge rusher like Abdul Carter. I think Browns end up going Abdul Carter with that number 2 pick, just because, like, the quarterback is necessary. But if your quarterback that you need is not in this draft, no need to even waste time. Like, you just got to find somebody else. I don't think, it's a bad thing what they have, or what they have is like too overwhelming at the quarterback position. It's kind of weird who they have, but ultimately I think they go defense and get Abdul Carter here to just add to that defense. And then they trust the guys they have at quarterback right now, which is a scary sight for probably Browns fans, because it's like, for them, a lot of Browns fans are probably screaming and pleading like, please, let's get somebody, just a quarterback that can throw the ball and get out of this hellhole. So maybe that's the case there. But I got the Browns. They're avoiding Shedeur Sanders. I got them picking Abdul Carter. Number 3, New York Giants here. Giants, they got a couple different options where they could go. But to me, I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants did look toward Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter could be a good pickup for them. Obviously, with the Giants, you could make the argument that they go quarterback as well. Like, who knows? Maybe they do aim for Shedeur Sanders, but they did just have some weird pickups in the offseason, bringing over Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. To me, that tells me they're not really going to try to grab someone at that quarterback position. So I would say Travis Hunter is probably going to be the one that goes to New York. I think that's a good combination there. If he goes to New York, maybe you got some solid receivers over there, and then maybe this is a team that lets him play both sides of the ball. So we'll see about that. And I think that's something we could definitely grow to expect. At number 4, you got the New England Patriots. I think they wrap up, add some more receiving depth, and they go T-Mac from Arizona. Now, initially, I was kind of on the train where maybe they look a different route. Maybe they try and grab a defensive presence or a lineman, or maybe Ashton Gentry, because he's a great athlete as well. But above all, I think McMillan from Arizona is kind of going to be the focus for the Patriots, just because we've seen them bring Diggs over, and Diggs is, I don't know if he's young. He's kind of old to be a number 1 receiver. I'm going to just say it that way. You bring in some new talent, they learn the ropes a little bit, and then they grow into be your true number 1 receiver. So that's why I say McMillan, I got him going to the New England Patriots. I'm not going to go through the whole entire list here, just because this would be a 45-minute episode, and I'm not going to do that, man. I ain't going to do that to y'all. So, all right, after the Patriots, next up, we would have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars, to me, they got to protect Trevor Lawrence. They got to get someone to be able to hold the defense and give Trevor Lawrence some time to throw the ball, because there's no reason this man should be making over $250 million and can't complete a pass or can't throw touchdown passes. So they got to go offensive lineman here. And the offensive lineman that I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will end up going with is the LSU offensive lineman. I got to find his name again, man. Will Campbell. Yep, Will Campbell. I think that's where they go, the offensive tackle there. And that's going to help them, because it's pieces they need. Jacksonville, there's multiple pieces you could make an argument for, but to me, I think the Will Campbell move would probably be the best move for the Jaguars, because they got to protect Trevor Lawrence, man. Somebody has to get out there and protect him from all these defensive linemen that be tackling him. So, but here's where it gets tricky, because number 6, you got the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders got Geno Smith so far. They don't really have many receiving pieces. So maybe they do look for receiver, but there's been reports that Shedeur Sanders and the Raiders, have a mutual interest with each other. Shedeur Sanders initially was saying a bunch of things like he wants to force his way over to the Raiders, and Deion Sanders was saying he's want to force his way over to the Raiders. So there was some early conversation about the Raiders possibly taking Shedeur Sanders, and I still think we're not too far away from that, which is why I could see Shedeur Sanders dropping all the way down to number 5 there. But it's difficult because no matter where he goes, I don't think they will really put him out somewhere to be a starter. I think he goes somewhere and then maybe, at best he sits for 1 or 2 years, which is how long they have Geno Smith for. And then after that, then he becomes the starter and then does his thing. However, if they don't draft Shedeur Sanders, I think they need to go skill position here. And I'm not talking about tight end. So maybe they do look at Ashton Gentry. Maybe they do look at another wide receiver, the one from North Carolina, Hampton, or the running back Hampton. Like maybe they do look for some guys here. Even Matthew Golden from Texas. Like they could possibly grab people who are, great fits for the offense. But I think above all, with the Raiders, if they don't go Shedeur Sanders, which I'm not advocating for, I think they should go wide receiver because you got to add some pieces for people to throw the ball to over there. With the New York Jets, they got a couple different angles. With them, I'm staying solid on putting some offensive pieces on that ball. All offensive pieces on that side of the ball because if Raiders don't take Gentry and he's still on the board, I think at that point we'll see the New York Jets probably grab Ashton Gentry and then go from there. Mind you got to keep in mind, there's a lot of edge rushers in here, and I haven't been saying they're going to get drafted this early, so that could be a big toss-up in everybody that I'm naming here. Jalen Walker, extremely great linebacker. You got the other guy, Mikael Williams, another great linebacker as well. And then obviously Abdul Carter, but Jaheed Campbell from Alabama, another great linebacker. I think we see a lot of a great edge rushers and linebackers go in this draft here. Michigan has a few as well. So, it'll be interesting to see. However, that's at number 7. So number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers, they got to go. Let's see, with the Panthers, the thing is, obviously they ended on a very, very, very good note with grabbing, a couple of wins in the end. So it is tough to decide who they go with, but I think they add some beef on the edge. And this is where we probably see one of the, some edge rushers start coming off the board here. Mason Graham, defensive tackle, probably coming off the board around this pick of 9. Maybe Mikael Williams, he's probably coming off the board at 9. I think the Carolina Panthers definitely go defense here and just add to that defensive presence that's already there. Number 9, New Orleans Saints. I've been seeing some reports about the Saints picking up Jalen Milroe. I wouldn't be upset at Jalen Milroe going to the Saints for reasons, me being an Atlanta Falcon and also me just not having a lot of faith in Jalen Milroe on the professional level, but maybe he proves me wrong, and I hope he does prove me wrong, just on a different team. That would be lovely if he begins to really elevate his game. Please just don't let it be with the Saints. So I think the Saints end up going with Jalen Milroe. And then at number 10 here, man, this is where my trip is going to end for the draft. We get the full draft tomorrow. But number 10, Chicago Bears. Man, they've already made so many great offseason moves. And with the Bears, maybe they go in multiple routes. It was rumors of picking up Gentry if he falls down to the number 10 spot, which he may not. It's a lot of edge rushers too. Bears could go that route. I think this is really going to be a draft for just picking the best player available. I've been seeing a lot of rumors about that, but with the Bears, I got them grabbing Jalen Walker. I forgot about him too. I didn't even mention Jalen Walker is another linebacker who's a great player. So maybe he goes before, maybe he goes after, who knows. But I got Bears going defense and just keeping that defense strong, bringing in some new guys, some young talent to learn from the people who are already there. But above all, man, for a lot of teams in this draft, I really feel like, this is the draft where it's not it's the draft of edge rushers. It's the draft of defense for this one here, because you got some great cornerbacks, you got linebackers, defensive tackles, and edge rushers who are the stars of this draft. It's not as much as people want to talk about Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Cam Ward and all of them. This is not really the quarterback draft. So for quarterbacks, I can see a lot of quarterbacks fall into the back end of the first round in this draft, and there's no need to panic, but it's just, when you talk about best player available and guys who don't really need a quarterback, there's a few teams that need a quarterback, but also they can make moves in the free agency and continue to bring those guys there. But edge rushers, defensive talent, cornerbacks, linebackers, D tackles, like this is the draft where you can really build up from that. And I think they'll be really popular in the first 10 picks, first 20 picks. Other than that, I don't think it's crazy to think Shedeur Sanders will fall down to the back end of the first round, maybe even the second round. Jackson Dart and them, they possibly will. I know you got Ohio State quarterback as well, Will Howard. Will Howard. Yep, that's him. Yeah, like they got a lot of people here. And for the quarterback prospects, it's just nothing spectacular out there. Like a lot of these guys, if they were in last year's draft where there was elite talent for quarterbacks, they would be second round, third round, maybe even further than that. But this is just not the draft for quarterbacks. As much as media wants to make it about the quarterbacks, no, this is just not that type of draft class. This is a defensive draft class here, and this is where you really add the elements on your defense. I think we see a lot of studs coming out on defense in this draft here. So it'll be interesting to see, man. But like I said, the draft is Thursday, today, and you got to check it out. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited. I probably won't be able to watch it. Truth be told, man, I'm going to be 100% honest with y'all. And the reason I'm probably not going to watch it is because my Pistons play. They play the Knicks. And I got to watch this game 3. I got to watch game 3. And you know, hey, if you get an overload of content about the Pistons and the Knicks, bro, I'm sorry. You just gonna have to deal with that series, bro. I ain't never seen the Pistons win a playoff game outside of the one they won in this series. I ain't never seen the Pistons win a playoff series and actually understood what was like really going on. I was a little too young in 2005, 2008 when they won 2 and they was on the back end of falling off with the dynasty. I was still like a little too young just to really be able to analyze basketball. So this is like the first time, bro, all through high school, all through college, all through adulthood, I have never seen the Pistons win a playoff series. So best believe I'm watching every playoff game from the Pistons, and I'm watching every playoff series. So if you get the overwhelming and the overload on Pistons content, hey, I apologize in advance, but that's what you just gonna have to listen to, bruh. At least until they win the NBA Finals. All right. Anyway, look, man, let me leave y'all on a positive note here. So positive note I'm gonna leave for you guys is, I'm gonna just say this, man. Go at your own pace. No matter what you're doing, just go at your own pace. Don't really compare about this guy, this person, this girl, this woman, this person doing whatever they're doing. If they're in the same boat as you, but just go at your own pace, bro. Like at the end of the day, everybody's on their own timeline. So you can't really, keep your eyes out and trying to keep up with everybody else and what they're doing. Because maybe you don't really know what they're doing behind closed doors either. Maybe they're cheating the process. Maybe they're cutting the grind. But all you can control is what you're doing, and just go at your own pace, bro. Whether that's fast pace, whether it's a slow pace. But either way, just remember, slow motion is better than no motion. So stay at it. Anyway, look, man, that's all we got for y'all today. So I do appreciate you for tuning in, for jumping in, tuning in on live. That's something we're going to be trying to do. I'm just trying to incorporate that. So we'll really see how it goes. Other than that, man, I appreciate y'all. We'll be back later on next week. And so on and so on and so on.